This is Drex Live on CKNW News Talk 980.
Hi, gang. Welcome back to the program. Sam Ferris. And for Drex, you are listening to Drex Live. Welcome to the weekend. 7:10 on a Friday night. 18 degrees yesterday. Unbelievable. Winter? No, didn't happen. We're headed straight for spring. Is that global warming? Is that why it's getting so warm? It could be. A lot of people say it is. A lot of people say it isn't. And that is just perfect because we have Earth Hour. It is on tomorrow night. Remember this? I know, it's kind of fun. It's a fun way to turn off the lights and get frisky with your partner, but there is a big message behind Earth Hour, right? It's the 9th annual Earth Hour tomorrow night, Saturday night. We do it every year, have been for the last, 7, 8 years now, from 8:30 to 9:30. The idea is that we're all supposed to turn off our lights for 1 hour. Started by the World Wildlife Fund in Sydney, Australia in 2007. And what they do is they ask all of us to turn off our lights for 1 hour. Really not a big deal. You can make it fun. And the idea behind it is so that we recognize and we raise awareness for climate change around the world. Now, since they started it, everybody kind of caught on to this whole thing. I believe it's like over 170 countries take part in this now. 7,000 cities around the world take part in it. There are 1,200 monuments, like big ones, like the Eiffel Tower, Big Ben, the Great Pyramids, Vegas, some of their hotels, even our Lionsgate Bridge. There are some big monuments now that turn off their lights in recognition. Now, keep in mind, our generation, this is, and not to freak you out and get all propagandy, but our generation is the first generation that will be able to feel the full effects of climate change, when we are also the last generation that can really do something about it. There's another message behind Earth Hour, which I just found out today that I found very interesting. 1 billion people around the world lack access to electricity. No, their future and well-being requires access to clean, affordable energy. Earth Hour can help us do that. Also, last year, Earth Hour used a crowdfunding platform to raise money and delivered lots of great things. Thousands of fuel-efficient stoves to families in Madagascar, also solar kits to remote villages in Uganda, and it also helped victims of Typhoon Haiyan. So there's a lot of messages behind Earth Hour. So the question is it just marketing? Does it really make a difference? Well, we got the guy. I mean, you could listen to me and you might go, you have no idea what you're talking about, but we're going to talk to a guy that knows what he's talking about. Tom Harris, Executive Director at the International Climate Science Coalition at Ottawa. Tom, thanks for joining us. Tom, what are you doing at 8:30 tomorrow night?
Oh, I'll probably turn out my lights, but not for the same reason as other people will.
What?
I'll be doing it. Well, you see, you have to realize that the purpose of Earth Hour is symbolic. The actual practical effect of Earth Hour is to increase emissions, if you can believe that. Because you see, if you have a car, for example, and you stop and start it, you're actually reducing the efficiency, you're burning more fuel, you're actually producing more emissions. Now, since 2/3 of the world's electricity comes from the burning of fossil fuels, the real practical impact of Earth Hour is to actually increase emissions, because all these stations all across the world, in particular mostly coal stations, they have to ramp down for the hour, and then suddenly they have a lot more demand. And so what the net result in a practical sense is of Earth Hour is that we're actually increasing emissions. So what you really are doing is Earth Hour is symbolic.
Oh.
Okay, the actual practical effect is,
I see what you're talking about,
to increase emissions. So it's not, you're not doing anything practical. But symbolically, the purpose is, and here's the motto for Earth Hour, and this is where I have trouble with Earth Hour. It says, use your power to change climate change. Okay? Now, a lot of Earth Hour activities, such as saving energy, make a lot of sense on the surface, except that what you have to realize is that they're doing it for the wrong reason. It's kind of like you're doing a good thing, namely saving energy and conserving nature, but you're doing it for the wrong reason. You know, the idea that we know that we're causing dangerous climate change is something that's highly debated in the scientific community right now. And in particular, the fact that we've had 18 years with no essential warming and no cooling, even though CO2 has gone up about 10%, is causing many scientists to take a step back and to say, well, do we really control global climate, or is this being controlled by nature? Now, they don't oppose the idea that we should save energy and reduce pollution, but the idea that we suddenly are the master controller of climate change, this is a problem with many scientists, and that's why they don't like the motto of Earth Hour. They think that really it should be called something like Energy Hour, where we save energy symbolically to actually indicate our sort of solidarity with the 1.5 billion people in the world who have no electricity. So that would make sense, but to do it because we're trying to stop climate change is pretty far-fetched, and that's where I have trouble with this.
Tom Harris, I got to let you go, but I love that you just gave us a whole lot to think about. You sent us in a completely different direction about the whole thing.
Yeah, well, in fact, there's a group called the Non-Governmental International Panel on Climate Change, the opposite of the IPCC. It's the NIPCC. And what they're showing, for example, by citing hundreds of peer-reviewed scientific papers, is that two-thirds of all the warming in the 20th century was caused because the sun, by the end of the 20th century, was brighter than it had been in 8,000 years.
Wow.
So they're saying that we may have some impact. We don't know how much. But it does appear that nature is doing most of this. So the purpose of Earth Hour should really be to save energy for the sake of saving energy, not to affect climate.
Interesting. Tom, you've given us a lot to think about for this weekend.
Thank you.
You enjoy that hour tomorrow. Go and get frisky with your partner. Go and, I don't know, sit in a tent in your living room. It's kind of fun because we're all going to just turn the lights out, light some candles, and maybe have a glass of wine.
Oh, sure. And I'll call it Energy Hour.
You know what, Tom? I'll call it Energy Hour for you. I'll even lift the glass to you tomorrow night.
Okay.
Well, I said in the darkness, Tom Harris, the Executive Director, International Climate Science Coalition in Ottawa, has given us a lot to think about.